fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rhythm, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my god! Oh. Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Sometimes you just got to lick the stamp and send it.
I don't know what happened on there. I just plucked her in first, gave some gen. Oh, fuck yeah. Sorry.
You are racing with other people. And if you no longer go for a test that exists, you're no longer a racing driver.
We go green for 40 minutes of racing around Monza.
Billy, look at defense by Ethan Rigolt, just getting so punchy.
And a brilliant getaway already from Josh Rogers.
Two pro drivers going at it here between Dylan O'Keefe and Nick Foster.
Stanaway's demoted to third. Webster wins week 9 here at Sebring through the final corner. That's a huge slide for Cooper Murray. Just trying to barge their way through, and that's whoa, that's a merry-go-round for Nick Burkett. Campbell, Paolo Gaon, and Ferraris behind. Glenn Wood actually was flipped into the barriers. One of the most exciting pirouettes I've seen in quite some time. That's Van Gisbergen, and his day is done. Tell you what, if Calvin wins this race, I wouldn't be surprised. He's all four wheels up the racetrack. Wow, but he just saves it on the apex.
Contact almost made, side by side through the elevation change, and Scotty McLaughlin had the move done, but he got over the crest. And
What a send!
Dylan O'Keefe sends it up the inside, can't do anything with it.
Shane Van Gisbergen already on the attack.
It begins and sending has begun.
And it's going to be a drag race to the line. Tuesday night is rapidly becoming a night to lick the stamp. Send it.
Oh, I forgot I was helping commentate here. I was just sitting back in my jocks and
Good evening, good morning, or good afternoon from wherever you're tuning in from right around the world, and welcome to Just Send It, brought to you as always by SimSpeed TV. And this series is perhaps one of the most talented and competitive competitions, while also being the most laid back and frankly wacky series in Australian sim racing. A new car, a new track every single week. The combo wheel today landed on the MX5s to Charlotte Roval, or to put it in Just Send It terms, absolute chaos. So this should be fun. My name is Ryan Jones, alongside me is Lachlan Mansell, and behind the scenes is Jay Kennedy. Lockie, this track has a bit of everything, doesn't it? A big full throttle section through the oval part of the circuit, a concrete canyon just after turn 1, elevation change, and a crazy couple of chicanes. First introduced to the world in 2018, it's already seen some truly crazy races.
Good evening to you, Ryan. Good evening, everybody. Great to be back on comms here for another night of Just Send It action. And right off the top, I have to ask the question, Ryan. What's your hair like at the moment? Do you need a haircut?
Oh, no. Well, yes, actually, yes, I do. But
well, that's going. You're in the right place then, because we've got a field full of hairdressers' cars competing in Just Send It tonight.
Do we?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, I understand. Yes.
It took you a little while for that to click, didn't it? I'll tell you what, I think there's quite a few people out there who do need a haircut at the moment because of the social distancing and the isolation policies that we're all being subjected to at the moment. A lot of people have maybe just delayed their monthly or bi-monthly trip to the hairdresser by a couple of weeks. I know that my hair is certainly due for a trim, so if you do need a haircut, you've come to the right place.
I tell you what, Jay doesn't. He's too old to grow hair at this point, so he's one of the fortunate ones. But plenty of these drivers are probably nowhere near having that issue. We got everyone from seasoned veterans to people still in primary school, it would seem.
Well, it's the biggest ever field that we've had for Just Send It tonight. In fact, so large was the field that obviously we'll have the main broadcast race, which is the one that we'll get to watch. But in addition to that, there are no less than 3 other races that will run concurrently that have had to be set up this evening for all of those who didn't qualify in the top split. So a huge turnout, and it really does show the popularity of the Just Send It race format, where every week we have a different car and track combination, and we encourage people to get out there, have some fun, and like the name suggests, just send it.
Most certainly, and harks back to that point of it being a very competitive series despite its nature, and some very good drivers joining us once again. Matthew Payne turning up for, I think, one of his first appearances in this series. He is a KZ2 karting champion. Matthew Simmons, GT Academy champion. We also have, of course, Stephen Owen, Jay Hansen, Lockie Hughes, Oscar Piastri, Liam Lawson. I believe that's his first time in Just Send It. He is, of course, one of the drivers on their way to Formula 1 along with Piastri. He's running in Formula 3 this year, or so he should be. He picked up 2 podiums last year in F3, one at Silverstone, one at Monza. So he's certainly got the skill, and he's been doing very well on the sim as of late in other series as well.
And how's that for a sponsor on Dylan O'Keefe's car making his return to the Just Send It series tonight, the current leader of the ARG Esports Cup, one of the competitors in the TCR Australia series. And normally I'd give a big thumbs up to having Tinder sponsorship on your race car, but right now in this era of social distancing, not sure that it's a great time to be going out there trying to find hot dates.
Well, it's all online, so it's perfect, really.
Oh, true. I suppose you can have video dates, can't you?
Yeah, I suppose so. As you can see, it's pretty dark out there, so there's a lot of grip out there on the track. It's a slightly different layout to what they actually qualified in, Lockie. They made a slight kerfluffle with selecting the choice. They selected the kind of new scan with the old bus stop, and not the new scan with the new bus stop. But we've got the new one in, which is slightly less chaotic than the old one. But
one of the
things, an absolute mess to get through, isn't it?
It is, and one of the things that you will see tonight through those chicanes is that the drivers will have to be very careful just how hard they attack those curves, because particularly in a small or light car like the Mazda MX5, you don't have to clobber those curves too hard, and they will throw the race car right off balance and potentially into the fence on the outside. So expect a bit of action and maybe a bit of pandemonium through some of those chicanes.
Technical, as soon as I start to mention it, it disappears. Thanks for that, Jay. But that's pretty cool to be able to see what the drivers are doing out there, and hopefully we can eventually get more and more drivers in, maybe with some of our other leagues, maybe the MX Scops on the weekend. We can have a field of top split drivers all with webcams that we can tune into, similar to, I guess, how they're doing it with Pro Invitationals and the E-Series events. So, pretty cool shot to see how everyone's running it from home, as we've got about 30 seconds left in this warm-up.
This is the second time that the Charlotte Roval circuit has appeared in the Just Send It series. The last time that we raced here at Charlotte was in the Chevy SS NASCAR, which was late in Season 2. On that occasion, it was Cooper Webster who took the race victory from pole position. We've seen Cooper Webster have a race win in the Mazda MX5. Last time the MX5 featured in Just Send It was way back in Season 1 at the Interlagos circuit, and on that occasion as well, it was Cooper Webster who took the win. So Cooper Webster, one of the top sim racing drivers in Australia at the moment, you would have to say. You'd have to probably put him down as one of the red-hot favourites for tonight.
I think you certainly would. Driving for a very good team, an Evolution Racing team as well. He's got it all behind him as we get ready to grid, and this is how they will grid up. Cooper Webster, he's on pole. Oscar Piastri starts beside him. Jackson Harlow from 3rd. Liam Lawson from 4th. Caleb Hides from 5th. Matthew Payne from 6th. Purdy from 7th. And it's 4 pros occupying the 4 outside slots on the grid, with Brock Feeney in 8th. Then comes McLeod and Matt Stevens.
Outside the top 10, we've got Wayne Burke back to Techstar McCoy, Job Stewart, Casey Mann, Jack Hotter and Cameron Gall, and then Lockie Hughes ahead of Hayden Dodman, Emerson Harvey, and Maya Ott completing the top 20.
21st off the grid will be Ryan Tudor, Cohen Attard alongside Dean O'Brien and Lachlan Manif on the 12th row of the grid. Jay Hansen, Kobe Williams behind them, Aaron Borg and Cooper Murray on row 14. The top 30 rounded out by Dylan O'Keefe and Jason Newman. Rest of the results of qualifying.
Yeah, running through very quickly. Yeah. Cameron Hill making his debut tonight. He just sent it. It will be Ben Bargwana rather than Jason as well. Just had a text message through from Jason to explain that it is Ben Bargwana in that car as we get underway for Week 5, Season 3 of the Just Send It iRacing Series. Tuesday night entertainment for you at the Charlotte Roval circuit. Nice start from Cooper Webster off pole.
And they all make it through turn 1 and 2 somehow relatively cleanly. So it is Cooper Webster that leads them through the middle part of the racetrack. Oscar Piastri right up behind, and Liam Lawson back there in third is getting out sideways and into the grass. His number 93 car holds onto it. Does a good job to keep that one straight. That was Brock Feeney, who's lost out a couple spots already on the opening couple sectors of the racetrack. Now they make their way up onto the oval section of the racetrack, the oval 1 and 2, and then down the back straight into the bus stop chicane. This is where you've got to be pinpoint perfect, as there are a few cars around in the background.
We always expected that there was going to be a bit of carnage with such a tightly congested field on this opening lap. Cameron Gall has found his way into the fence. A couple of other cars sporting a bit of damage as well. Actually, it's something of a miracle that there were not more cars involved in that incident, given that it is such a huge field of cars. But just as I say that, another one goes spinning off. Cars having to dart left and right to try and avoid contacts, but there's at least 3 or 4 vehicles that have been involved in that incident as well.
And that was Mitchell McLeod that's facing backwards in the middle of the chicane and finally gets pointed the right way. We're going to replay up on screen. This is how it unfolded. That looks like McLeod trying to force the issue down low. That was Dodman actually, his teammate. Into the chicane they go. There's already crashing in front of him. McLeod climbs the fence. Todman goes into the side of his teammate. And lucky there wasn't more cars involved in that in the end, as our leaders make their way back around the infield section once more. Top 3 still under a blanket here. Cooper Webster fending off 2 open wheel aces.
Love the Renault livery on Oscar Piastri's car, of course. Formula Renault Euro Cup champion last year, planning a step up to the FIA Formula 3 championship for the Prema Racing team in 2020, and he is being hotly pursued by Liam Lawson, the New Zealander, who, as Ryan mentioned at the top of the broadcast, was a podium finisher on a couple of occasions in FIA F3 last year. With real life motorsport on hold, they're not able to race against one another on real racetracks at the moment, Piastri and Lawson, but why not race on some of the world's best racetracks in Mazda MX5s in Just Send It instead?
And of course, sporting a Red Bull livery for Lawson, because he is part of their junior driver program too, so in a very good position. What happened to James Golding, the Supercars driver, back in the field? Coming towards turns 1 and 2 of the oval section of the track. Oh, that's Brock Feeney who gets turned up and over. He goes rolling his way towards the oval, and Golding went straight into him.
Yeah, not really anywhere to go there for James Golding, unfortunately. I'm a bit worried for a minute that was Dylan O'Keefe, but O'Keefe's running the same livery as James Golding tonight. Of course, they are teammates at the Gary Rogers Motorsport organisation. Here's Matty Payne, who, like you mentioned, a former champion in go-karts, but very heavily involved in the media and PR side of things as well. Matt Payne involved in a battle with Blake Purdy, another one of our real-life drivers who we see running in an Aussie racing car in the miniature race car series that runs as part of the AMRS.
If you can get a good exit through here, you're going to be careful. They're easy to get loose and sideways through that part of the track. He closes up to the back of him. Maybe able to use slipstream here. Be one of the fastest parts on the track to pull alongside him. Issue is, you don't really want to go side by side into the bus stop. The revamped bus stop chicane has been opened up and extended deeper towards the infield, so it's a much harder braking zone than it used to be. Makes it potentially a bit more of an overtaking opportunity, but still those curbs make it very difficult.
One of the things about the Mazda MX5s as well is that because they don't produce a huge amount of horsepower, you really do have to be smooth and you really do have to minimise the mistakes in these cars. It's all about maximising your exit speed, particularly from the slower corners, particularly coming into sections like this one where you are reaching quite high speeds, and we've got contact. Matt Payne gets turned around. Blake Purdy goes for a spin as well. That was never going to work. The two cars side by side on the exit of the chicane. And actually, both of them have done a nice job of recovering from that one without losing too much time.
Certainly have, and Lockie Hughes will close up to the back now of Cooper Murray as a result. A few cars down in pit lane. Remember, the big talking point of most races is when you make your pit stop. If you pit before the caution comes out, you're all set to go to the end. If you don't, you're going to lose a bunch of spots if you're part of the minority in that situation. It's just how the caution system works in iRacing, and we'll see everyone come down, I'm sure, before the caution comes out. Came on very late at Monza in that Slipstream Fest of a supercar race last week. Came out 15 minutes to go. We restarted with another 10 minutes to go. That was a grandstand finish, as it often is. Just send it sideways and into the infield grass and clips the fence to Dean O'Brien. Talked about it earlier, Lockie. Very easy to get sideways through there.
And Dean O'Brien in the Little Mermaid car tonight, he's one of the drivers who has had a race win in a Mazda MX-5 in the just-ended series as well. Took a win at the Barcelona circuit at Catalunya in Season 1. The battle is really heating up here for the lead because Oscar Piastri is right on the tail of Cooper Webster. Look at how much of the curbs they're using as they come across the start-finish lines to complete another lap. Just to come back to the point that you were making there, Ryan, about pit strategy, absolutely you want to try and get your stop done before the safety car comes out. Didn't stop Jackson Suzlin-Harlow a couple of weeks ago in the TCR car at Okayama though, did it? He didn't get to make his pit stop till after the safety car came out, but he had so much raw speed that he was still able to fight his way back to the front of the field.
Speaking of Harlow, fastest car in the top four is him, back in fourth, so he's actually closing in on the Lawson-Piastri-Webster battle for the lead. So it could be a four-car exchange fairly quickly here. He's just found his way by Kobe Williams, who came out of the pit stops after his early dive into the lane, riding on board with Liam Lassinen as he sweeps through the banks of Charlotte Motor Speedway and down towards the chicane. You can take a couple different lines on entry here. See, he got it over to the wall much earlier than Piastri did. And you got to really ride those curbs as you enter the corner, and you run it as close to the wall as you dare on exit. Cut the track as much as you can. Pinpoint perfect.
One of the other things as well is the driving technique for these cars, and I was having a chat to Dylan O'Keefe a bit earlier on. In the Mazda MX-5s, in iRacing, it does allow you to have auto throttle selected.
Webster, sorry. Webster's pitted, Lockie.
He has. So you can actually have it set so that the throttle will automatically blip when you change down to a lower gear to match the engine revs to the gear that you've selected. But if you turn that feature off and you heel and toe manually like you would in a real race car, the drivers tell me that that's actually a bit faster than if you have the auto blip switched on. So the drivers who are good at the heel and toe technique, there is a bit of time to be gained in that.
Sounds about right. There is Webster down on pits, alerting a few of these drivers inside the top 10. Jay Hansen, Casey Mann, and looks like Tech Star McCoy as well. And Mia Ott back there in 11th place has found a way up from 20th on the grid. Not even one of the biggest movers. That's probably Justin Ruggiero actually, from 32nd to 15th. He's gained 17 spots in this race already, and
and how about Aaron? Aaron Ivers, another one. He's come from 45th on the grid at this stage, all the way up into 15th position. Jordan Shalala, who ran in the TCR car in the race for relief at Phillip Island on the weekend, he's come up to 19th position from 49th on the grid as well. So already some big movers, but obviously we've still got a lot to shake out with pit strategy as well. And at the end of the night, we'll hand out, as we always do, the Best Postman Award for the driver who makes up the most spots. Here they are. drivers who are set to be rivals in the FIA Formula 3 Championship this year. Oscar Piastri and Liam Lawson battling one another for the race lead in this race, and Jackson, Suzel and Harlow right there with them as well. So we've got two of the best real-life drivers battling it out with one of the best sim racing drivers in the country at the moment.
Certainly, and Harlow does have a bit of karting experience in real life. I do forget which exact category it is. It might be KA2, it might be KZ2. I think it's one of those two. I think it's KA2, I'm going to hedge my bets on that. But he does have a bit of talent in karting as well, so maybe he can follow the path of these two in the future. He is still quite young, is Harlow. It's Renault versus Red Bull out front, with Luigi watching on in third then. Do any of these guys pit and get some clean air before that caution comes out? Is the possibility that the caution come out before they pit? Could come out now for all we know. That happened a couple times with 30 minutes to go. It came out very early on. It is completely random, of course, so we have no idea when it may happen.
The highest placed car that's done a pit stop at the moment, unsurprisingly, is Cooper Webster. He's scored down in 14th position at this stage. Quite a few of the other cars have already got their pit stops out of the way as well, including Blake Purdy, Lockie Hughes, Jay Hansen, Justin Ruggier and Dylan Shepherd have all taken their stops as well. Here comes Liam Lawson, a big attack up the inside.
Nope.
No, he's actually coming into the pit, so gets out of that battle instead. I thought he was going to have a good run up the inside there of Oscar Piastri, but in fact he decided to peel off to the left-hand side and hit the pits for his stop. And here is Cooper Webster. He's way back ahead of some of the cars that are still yet to pit.
Oh, there's a crash! And he gets around it. Now, that's the issue with the early... That's Cameron Dance, who's in the fence on the racing line, gets hit. Finally gets it out of the fence. That's the issue with pitting early. You put yourself back in traffic. If you don't find a good spot of clean air, that's the risk you run. You might actually be finding himself being held up at the moment, and Cameron Dance looking rather annoyed with himself in that highly expensive looking rig, all snugged away. It looks like he's got the stream up on his phone too. Hi, Cam! Don't know if he can hear us.
Obviously, after ending up in the fence with damage there, he's decided to bring it back on into the pits for some repairs. So that will leave Jackson, Suzel and Harlow as the race leader. So while Liam Lawson came into the pits, we did actually have a move for the lead on the racetrack with Jackson, Suzel and Harlow getting ahead of Oscar Piastri. Let's have a look at how this one happens. Did Piastri make a mistake? He ran very, very wide out into the grass. That will have cost him some momentum, and that was enough for Suzel and Harlow to slip through on the inside.
Harlow did a good job not to get into the back of him there. You could see the flash of the brake lights as they came through as he got into the grass. Lawson's come out into a bit of clean air, but he has got Dodman now right in front of him. In front of Dodman is Cooper Webster, so Lawson is right there for the provisional lead of the race as he dives up the inside of the chicane, and he's completed the move. And now, next car is Webster. The battle is back on.
One of the things that's interesting is just how few positions you lose through taking a pit stop. I would have thought, given that we've got such a big field tonight, that the cars taking their pit stops would have come back out quite a long way down the order, but they're still inside the top 10, the runners that have taken their stops early.
Yeah, a pretty big spread in the field. Those top guys were very fast. There's a 10-second gap from Harlow back to Hides, who is now third on the racetrack. So they had a pretty high margin of safety already to deal with. And there's a relatively short pit lane here at Charlotte. And we have heard too that I was trying to guess which category that Jackson Harlow is in. Well, thank you to Nicole Ferguson, who PM'd us and let us know he's in the X30 class in karts. And he did race champions, which has preceded the last 4 or 5 Gold Coast Supercars events and did quite well there too. So X30, there you go, there's the answer.
Want to give a bit of recognition to young Caleb Hides, who's worked his way up into 3rd position on the road, making his debut in the Just Send It series as our 2 race leaders swing on into the pits. So Caleb Hides could actually go through to take the lead this time around. Indeed, that looks like exactly what's going to happen. Only 14 years old, making his debut, as I said, in the Just Send It series. He was very quick in qualifying, but he is something of a specialist in the Mazda MX5. It's the main car that he likes to race on iRacing. Still doing a very good job in what is a very cutthroat environment. And wow, that was a big crash for Hayden Dodman. Having a side-by-side battle there with Harrison Dengate, it was in the number 97 Red Bull car, and Dodman has ended up hard into the fence on the left-hand side of the circuit.
Not the first barrel roll we've seen today. It might not be the last. He's tried to squeeze Dengate up to the top, and Dengate tried to come back down. Dodman, pretty unlucky there. But that is racing. You got to take those risks when you're running side by side. Where has Piastri come out? A long way behind, 6 seconds longer in the lane, and he's a long way back. There he is. So he's going to hope that caution comes sooner rather than later, and that will put him back up to those guys. But he is now behind Harlow on the racetrack. Lawson and Webster have separated a bit, so the top three have spread out just a little bit through this pit stop phase. Hasn't spread out at all though for this battle further back in the field. That looks like Jay Hansen for Eclipse Sim Sports, fending off Casey Mann and also Techstar McCoy, still forever my favourite man in the field.
And Techstar McCoy, another drive with some real life racing experience in the Victorian XL Series as well, but very cool name, isn't it?
Look, hang on, let's go back to 18th place. What an absolute mess it is back there, and around 22nd as well. Huge pack of cars. They were all at some point side by side a couple corners ago, and they're all stacked up behind Aaron Borg. Cameron Dance is in there as well. Behind, at the back is Job Stewart, Mitchell McLeod, Cameron Gall, Matthew Simmons on board with him, driving for Race on Oz.
Mitchell McLeod, who's always in the thick of the action as well. He's right with that battle at the moment. And like you say, Andrew Collins involved in that one as well. Good to see Andrew Collins back in Just Send It tonight. Andrew Collins doesn't race in real life, but he's a race engineer for the Ashley Seawood Motorsport team, as we see. And Matt Simmons making a bit of contact with one of the cars in front. We're going to have some side-by-side action here. And it's going to be, I reckon, Aaron Borg, who might get rounded up on the outside as well. Job Stewart, the most capped driver in the Just Send It series, goes the other way, goes to the extreme inside of the road, 3 wide into the chicane. Do they all pop out the other side? Yes, just.
What an exchange from these drivers. It all started with Simmons going too deep into the back straight chicane, checked up on exit to keep it off the fence, got hit from behind, checked everyone up, and Job Stewart had that massive run. So yeah, Matthew Simmons running for Race Oz. I'd missed that announcement, that's why I was surprised. And he does have a history with them. He raced with their online leagues that they have on PlayStation and Xbox, and also good friends with one of the Race Oz drivers. And of course, real world experience in the Blunt Pain GT series for Matthew Simmons after winning the GT Academy. So a very experienced real world and sim driver in Simmons. Relatively new to iRacing though, funnily enough.
Tyler Howard going for a big dive up the inside of Cameron Gall as well, but getting it all crossed up on the exit. Has to apply some opposite lock to keep it on the straight and narrow, and loses momentum out of that one. That allows Brock Feeney to go through on the outside. So we'll turn our attention back to this battle, which seemingly has been going on all race long. So everybody has now completed their pit stop. So what we do have is the field now cleansed. Cooper Webster leads by 2.5 seconds. And it is Liam Lawson back ahead of Jackson Suzel and Harlow at this point. Oscar Piastri, we mentioned the amount of time that he lost in the pit stop. He's back there in 4th position. Then it's Wayne Burke, Caleb Hines, Matt Payne, Mega Ott, Blake Purdy, and then Cooper Murray, the Porsche Carrera Cup Australia Championship leader, who rounds out the top 10 at this stage.
As we continue to watch this battle then, Job Stewart on board with him. Got some very close racing right in front of him. A look up the inside from the 34. Gets it up there for the second part of the double right-hander. Hip checks Emerson Harvey. Hip checks poor old Mitchell McLeod out of the way. And getting the elbows out here at the Charlotte. McLeod might be a bit unhappy about that. What a smoke. Who's that from?
Oh,
Oh,
Matt
no,
Payne's
Payne.
gone for a spin. And he was running in 7th position at the time, so he will have lost a few spots out of that one. He was under some pressure from, I think it was Mega Ott at the time. And remember what I was saying before about you need to be a bit careful with those curbs? Well, Matt Payne has fallen victim to one of them right there, clipped it a bit too hard and a bit too aggressively, and that unsettled the car as Jackson Suzlin Harlow and Liam Lawson. This has been a great exchange that's gone on for most of the race. Side by side, once again, the Red Bull Junior driver versus the Luigi driver. And it is, for the time being, Liam Lawson who prevails.
Harlow got the move done up the inside of the double right-hander, but Lawson with a fantastic crossover move got the run back. They rubbed panels just a little bit. Just slowed Harlow up a fraction, and Lawson was able to take it back away, but here comes the slipstream for Jackson Harlow. Pulls to the inside. Do they want to go wheel to wheel into the chicane? They do. Can Harlow pull it up? Lawson has to back out of it. And Harlow takes that spot away. Lawson threw that over the curb, trying to keep it away from the right-hand side of Harlow's machine. That was incredibly tight, but a great move from him, and he puts himself up to second place. Webster has a 5.4 second lead through all of this. He's flown out. He's going to be a really disappointed man when that caution comes out.
This is a similar sort of performance to the one that we saw from Cooper Webster last time we had a Just Send It race here at the Charlotte circuit, where he just dominated while everybody else was battling behind over the minor positions. And speaking of the caution, here it comes right now. So just after the halfway stage of the race, the safety car comes out onto the circuit and will bunch up the field, and it sets us up for an exciting sprint to the finish.
Oh, well, power. I said last week, come out with 15 minutes to go, and it did. This week, I said the caution's going to make Webster very sad, and the caution comes out. Commentator's curse, but the other way around. What's the good version of a curse?
I don't know, the commentator's good luck charm? That doesn't seem to happen very often in my experience. Normally it is the commentator's curse.
But cautions are good and Just Send It, especially when the leader has a 5-second lead. Can't allow that to happen. We got to get a battle for the lead going, and Webster's going to have to watch out for those big moves from Harlow. He's an aggressive driver behind the wheel, gets it done very cleanly, but makes himself a nuisance for guys like Webster. Going to be fun to see two very, very fast sim races going up for the lead right in front of two very, very fast open wheel drivers behind them. And then Wayne Burke, Caleb Hyde, Mia Ott, a very interesting top 10 behind them.
Indeed it is, but this is what we love about the Just Send It series, isn't it? The fact that some of the brightest talents of the sim racing scene get to battle wheel to wheel with some of the top level real life racing drivers, and we know that Liam Lawson and Oscar Piastri are both well on the way to international stardom. If not Formula One, then not far off it. But Cooper Webster and Jackson Suzlin Harlow, two of the brightest young talents in the Australian sim racing scene at the moment, and we know that Australia is well renowned for producing exceptional sim racing talent. Exhibit A, Josh Rogers, but you would have to say that both Cooper Webster and Jackson Suzlin Harlow are certainly showcasing their talents in these sorts of events.
Certainly are. It's a good opportunity to go toe-to-toe with some of those giants of real-world racing. We often have Van Gisbergen and many others around. There's an inexplicable shot of Cameron Dance, who was apparently messaging the YouTube chat at the time. Texting and driving. Naughty, naughty, Cameron. Don't be doing that.
Oh, well, the safety car's out, so I think we can forgive him for that at the moment. If you're wondering why there are cars passing the safety car, the rules with the caution system in iRacing are that cars that are a lap down are allowed to overtake the safety car, go round, join onto the back of the queue, and get back on the lead lap. So we do have the wave round in place. That's always a good thing. It means that we end up with more cars left on the lead lap fighting it out with one another.
Yes, because we all like to have 40 cars and lead lap 15 minutes to go in Just Send It.
Here we go, Cameron Hill making his debut in Just Send It tonight. The only driver to win a race this year at the Australian Grand Prix. Took victory in the Thursday afternoon Carrera Cup race, so we can claim that he was the winner of the 2020 Australian Grand Prix.
I was going to say, does that make him the AGP winner? I think it does. Jeez. One hand on the phone, one hand on the, look like the beer, no hands on the wheel. That's why Cameron Dent is not inside your top 20. Oh crap, he is. He's 18. Scott Fontaine back in 34th as well. Getting yet another free pass in the top split because his time would have put him, I think, a 3rd or 4th split in this one. But he helped to run it all, so he deserves that free pass. We're not running for prizes or anything. We do have sponsors, of course, who help to make it all happen. And Melbourne Performance Centre, Erebus Motorsport, and also Modem Simulation have all thrown their support behind the series and have done so now for a couple seasons, and have helped to gain a lot of recognition for the series, which is probably one of the bigger ones at the moment in Australia with all the big names that we get.
Interesting to see a few cars hitting the pits at the moment, Ryan, so it could be that they're electing just to get some damage repaired or possibly bolt some fresh tyres on for this final stint. And if you are a bit further back in the pack, then hey, probably worth sacrificing a bit of track position to make sure that you've got the fastest possible package for the run home. So Brock Feeney, Kobe Williams, Justin Brugia and Harrison Dengate all electing to dive in for a pit stop.
No one from your top 10 then. Haven't seen any massive crashes so far. We've seen a few 3 or 4 car crashes, but nothing major like we often see in Just Send It. And that concrete canyon out of turn number 1, well, if someone spins there, there is no stopping a track block scenario, because once everyone piles in, there's nowhere to go. In the end, being told that everyone's on the lead lap, but as you can see clearly, 40th place, 45th place is 9 laps down. So Jay, get your facts right.
So everybody that's still racing, I think. So there are 39 cars that are still out there on the racetrack. They're all still on the lead lap. There are, however, a number of retirements, including Fraser Ross, the Australian GT Championship runner. He has retired from the race, unfortunately. Steve Owen, James Golding, Tristan Pancioni and Will Longmore are among the other names that have retired. And so too, the man who's normally metronomically consistent in the Just Send It series, Brenton Hobson. He is an uncharacteristic retirement from proceedings as well.
I swear each week you think of a new weird word to come up with, and this week it's metronomically. What was last week's word, Lockie? Was it a couple weeks ago?
So we had contretemps a couple of weeks ago. I think I've already introduced you to the word pandemonium, which is my trademark commentary word. And then metronomic, that's a word that you need to look up if you don't know the definition. Just look at it this way, Ryan. I'm enhancing your vocabulary.
Sure. Learn from the best, they say. Learn from the best. So, pace car's going to get dived down off turn number 4. Cooper Webster will lead us back to the green. Just a tick over 10 minutes remaining here at Charlotte Motor Speedway at the Roval for Just Send It, as we go back racing, and the top 3 covered by nothing as they run down at turn number 1. Heartburn turn, as they call it in NASCAR. Tums Heartburn turn. We've seen huge issues there on restarts in NASCAR with leaders firing into the fence. No such issues this time. There are cars defending down into the corner. Everyone makes it through, nice and clean.
We kind of hold our breath here at the restart, don't we? And while they made it there, they haven't made it through the next sequence of corners. Ben Bargwana has gone for a rotation. That's going to drop him right to the back of the pack. Battles happening everywhere else. You look in the field as well. Dylan O'Keefe making up a spot on Casey Mann. Andrew Collins looking for an overtaking opportunity there as well. Here we go back to our lead battle. So Cooper Webster's pulled clear Jackson Suzel and Harlow under pressure from Liam Lawson and from Oscar Piastri. I reckon Liam Lawson's got a bit better run out of the previous corner. He will be right in the toe of Jackson Suzel and Harlow as they head into the next chicane.
Harlow launching it over the curb. I don't know if you can see that from the chopper angle, but he threw that over the inside portion of that chicane and it pulled a huge gap back to Lawson. And here comes Piastri. He's going to show that nose to the outside through the oval. It becomes the inside for the chicane, but Lawson's going to move it over to defend. Chases him back across the track. Does the Red Bull Junior, and this closes Wayne Burke up to the back of these guys. So going to be a little bit careful, don't battle it out and cost himself a spot as Harlow side by side with Cooper Webster for the lead of the race. Webster holds him off around the outside at turn number 1. Webster lost a ton of time through the last sector of the track, and Harlow's still there all over the back of him. Must have a slowdown because they've all closed right up to the back of your race leader. And here comes Lawson now for second.
So Cooper Webster slowed it up at the apex there to make sure that Jackson Suzel and Harlow couldn't do the switchback. That cost him some time on the exit. Liam, full advantage, moves back up into second position, and it's Oscar Piastri who now looks to the outside of Jackson Suzel and Harlow. What a race this is shaping up to be with 9.5 minutes to go between some of the most talented sim racers and some of the most talented real life racers, all line astern as they come through to complete another lap.
Top 6 covered by about a second as they come through to the bus stop chicane once more. Harlow having to defend from Oscar Piastri. Through here, they'll go door to door. Piastri will back out of it. Burke gets into the back of him, and this looks like where Webster is weak. He's losing time through that chicane, and the other guys are clawing it all back in him. Blake Purdy was running 7th, is now on the fence and dropping time. He's probably going to tow back to the pits, it looks like. Lawson now closing right up to the back of Webster. He's going to have a crack, it seems, in the turn number 1. So run through the final chicane and across the line. Is he close enough for a lunge like Harlow made last time? No, he's not. We'll look at a replay, though. This will be what happened to Blake Purdy.
So battling with Cooper Murray, and we're hearing that there might have been a bit of contact between the two cars. So on board with Cooper Murray, and yes, so as they turned into the chicane, Blake Purdy's car was already a bit unsettled because he rode the ripple strip, and when you've got that sort of attitude on the car, it doesn't take very hefty contact to cause the car in front to go into a complete spin, and that unfortunately is what has happened to Blake Purdy, and that's the reason that he's ended up in the fence and out of business.
Matthew Payne trying to gain some more spots, trying to go up to 7th place now after spinning out earlier in the race, right in behind Cooper Murray, who dives down to the white and blue stripe on the bottom of the track, but it's all fair playing ground down below that, and Matthew Payne takes it, contact hard into the inside fence, goes to a KZ2 champion and out of this race. Battles on for second.
It was a bit of a cheeky move there from Matt Payne, wasn't it, going below the white line there, and in the end, the fact that obviously the way that the camber of the road works through there is when you get onto the flat surface, the car starts to understeer, and in Matt Payne's case, understeered straight into the side of Cooper Murray, and that caused him to lose control, and he ended up in the fence. So Matt Payne, another driver to bite the dust in the back half of this Just Send It race, but Cooper Webster now starting to exert his supremacy once again. He's opened up the margin of just over a second over Liam Lawson and Jackson Suzel and Harlow, who continued their battle for positions 2 and 3. Oscar Piastri's fallen back to 8th as well, so something's happened unsighted by us to Oscar Piastri. There he is. He's fallen back behind Cooper Murray and Mega Ott. So somewhere Oscar Piastri's had a mistake or an incident and fallen down the order.
Looks like a spin at the final chicane for him. Already behind Wayne Burke. Throws it over the curb, just loses the rear, and around he goes. Very easy to do if you catch it just wrong. If you catch it like Harley, you'll end up all 4 off the ground, which seems to be doing at every curb he comes across. Coming under a lot of pressure now from Wayne Burke, who's found a lot of pace. Lawson's found his way by Harlow. Can Burke do the same? Into the chicane, into the back of Lawson, gives him a huge hit. Lawson has to jump it over the curb and checks up the exit for Harlow. Wayne Burke goes from 4th to 2nd, and Caleb Hyde finds his way now inside the top 4.
Great racecraft there from Wayne Burke. He saw that the two cars ahead were both battling and that there was likely to be an incident between them, and he took full advantage to sail past both of them, and Cooper Murray's been turned. That was Mia Ott who got into the back of Cooper Murray's car in the chicane, which has very much proven to be the action zone on this racetrack. So now it's Cooper Murray who goes spinning outside the top 10.
This track never fails to produce crazy races, does it? Both in real life and sim racing. It's just one of those sorts of layouts. Harlow heaping the pressure now on Hyde for 4th place in this one, trying to find a way back by him, while Lawson tries to do the same just in front on Wayne Burke. This has allowed Cooper Webster out to a 3.5 second lead. Piastri's had another incident through the final chicane, got a little bit wiggly through there, kept hold of it, and Mia Ott right up the inside at turn 1. Piastri lost it by himself, spun it out, just missed everyone else into the inside fence. Now he's out of this one.
That's a shame for Oscar Piastri, who's given us so much entertainment tonight. And we have a look at the timing board to see who's made up the most positions so far in this race. And I'll tell you what, Andrew Collins has come
Harlow, middle of 3, into the chicane. No way! How did that work? He threw it. He threaded the needle in between Hyde and Burke into the chicane, and they all came out the other side.
Let's watch this again.
That's not possible.
Talk about flirting with disaster. Well, that's... We always like to talk about the best send of the night. Well, that's a lay down misère for that right there. You will not see a better passing manoeuvre all night long here in the Just Send at iRacing series. So that leaves Caleb Hyde and Wayne Burke squabbling over what will be positions 4 and 5. Cooper Webster now with a 5.2 second lead over Liam Lawson, as a result of the fact that there's been so much ferocious scrapping for position behind him.
Got it right back out to where he had it pre-caution. Interesting, he was under pressure for 2 laps and then suddenly just checked out on these guys as they started to battle behind. So must have made a few mistakes. Apparently, a few drivers are needing to pit twice for a splash of fuel. We'll keep an eye on that then and see if it's any of our top few drivers. 5 cars have pitted twice in this one already for fuel.
So could there be a bit of fuel saving happening? It's definitely something that we'll have to watch. Just to come back to the point that I was making before we saw that breathtaking overtaking manoeuvre from Jackson Suzlin Harlow, the driver who's made up the most positions, Andrew Collins, he has come from 43rd position on the grid up to 10th position, a gain of 33 spots for the Ash Seawood Motorsport engineer and Super Shock suspension product developer. And here he is battling with his good mate Dylan O'Keefe. They're squabbling over 9th and 10th spot at the moment.
Not a bad night's work he's had so far. Can he make it one better? As O'Keefe pulls a gap through the chicane, a lot more committed than Collins was. Very hard to follow a car through a corner, even harder through a chicane. You've got to pick the brake marker, you've got to pick 2 different turning points, which is very hard to do when you're tucked right behind someone's bumper. And Justin Ruggier, Brock Feeney, 13th place. Feeney to the inside, heartburn turn, and pulls that off well, but Ruggier comes right back at him, squeezed up against the wall by Feeney, leaving him just about a car's width. And looks like he's going to hold that off.
And of course, the common factor with Justin Ruggier and Brock Feeney is that they are both champions in the Super 3, or the V8 Touring Car Series, the 3rd tier of supercars racing.
Closing back up to 2nd place now. Harlow's refound some pace, and he's going to look the long way around at the chicane. Won't be his most daring move today into here. He goes over the curb. Lawson has to take a wide line. Ambitious, but not quite working that time round for Harlow. He's tried to zuck through there so many times. At one point it was bound not to work as Nearot loses a spot. Jay Hansen cruises on by.
Yeah, another good stout performance from Jay Hansen. He's another driver who's made a very strong transition from real life racing into the sim racing world. We saw that he took the class win in the TCR class alongside Jackson Susan Harlow in the race for relief at Phillip Island on Saturday. Young Jay Hansen, who races with the Ash Seawood Motorsport team in an Alfa Romeo in the TCR Australia Series in real life. This battle going on as well between young Caleb Hydes, who has been by far and away the rookie of the race, you would have to say, and also Wayne Burke.
Morse code to the back of Caleb Hyde's machine through turns 3 and 4. He runs a little bit wide under a lot of pressure from Wayne Burke, the experienced sim racer, out of these two by a country mile. Through onto oval turns 1 and 2 for the final time. The battle for P4 going to go right down to the wire using all of the available racetrack on the exit, riding it right up against the fence. Through here, if he gets through here nicely, he might be home and dry. He can't afford a mistake. As Wayne Burke shows the nose to the inside, trying to force a mistake from Hydes. As Harlow in front, dropping a lot of time. Here comes the run for Burke. As out front, Cooper Webster is got 2 corners to navigate, and he will win. Just send it at the Charlotte Roval in the MX5s. He will cross the line, and we'll look back to Caleb Hydes and Wayne Burke. The battle for 4th, into the chicane, a big dive from Burke. He throws it over the curb. They both cut the track. They both got to slow down. That is the strangest photo finish you'll ever see.
But the fireworks are ablaze for Cooper Webster, who picks up his 7th win in the Just Send It iRacing Series, cementing himself as the most successful driver in the history of the Just Send It competition. And he joins Jackson Suzel and Harlow as the only 2 drivers to have achieved race victories in all 3 seasons of Just Send It. So a stellar performance there from Cooper Webster. 7.5 seconds, the final victory margin, ahead of Liam Lawson, who comes home in 2nd position with Suzel and Harlow on the podium in 3rd spot.
I have never seen a photo finish where both cars are hard on the brakes, almost at a standstill, coming across the line. And somehow it was Caleb Hydes that won that battle. Despite Wayne Burke making the move, the battle of the slowdowns was won by Caleb Hydes. Cooper Webster's margin of victory was 7.6 seconds in the end. Back to Harlow in 3rd. Liam Lawson in 2nd. Then Hydes and Burke 4th and 5th. Hansen in 6th. Mia Ott. Good result in 7th. Don O'Keefe, Cooper Murray, Ryan Shooter running out your top 10.
Outside the top 10, Brock Feeney brought it home in 11th spot. We saw that he got past Justin Rougier towards the end there. Cameron Gall in 13th. Andrew Collins lost a few spots late in the race to finish in 14th position, but still a lot of places gained for him, as there was for Tyler Howard. And also a really good result there for Cameron Hill on debut. They came from well down the order to finish up in 14th position ahead of Lachlan Maneef, who drove for Cameron Hill's Formula Ford team in National Formula Ford the last couple of seasons. Scott Fountain in 16th, and then Cameron Dance in 17th, Scott Larnich in 18th, back to Caleb Hydes and Lee Harrison in 20th spot.
I think the real question is, how on earth did Scott Fontaine finish in 16th place? 54th to 16th too. That's a once-in-a-lifetime performance from him. Last car on the lead lap was Job Stewart, and then Barguana, Howard. The only cars a sole lap down. Everyone else had to either pit twice, retired, or had a lot of issues, and they'll scroll through on your screen some of the notable names there. Piastri, Matthew Simmons, as well as Aaron Borg as well, and Textar McCoy. I'll never get sick of it. But I think, Lockie, that'll about do us for this edition of Just Send It. What's next week? We don't know.
No, we don't know what's next week as far as Just Send It goes, but what we do know is there's plenty of awesome sim racing to keep you entertained over the coming days. Obviously, we've got the Supercars E-Series round number 2 tomorrow night. One Max Verstappen is making a guest appearance in that series. The ARG Esports Cup resumes on Thursday night for round number 3 as well, and plenty of other sim racing events, including the Australian Turbo Touring Car iRacing Series coming your way as well, the V8 Scop Series, which is broadcast right here on the SimSpeed TV network, and plenty of other sim racing events to keep you occupied as well. So another epic, enthralling edition of Just Send It. The MX5s have certainly delivered here at Charlotte.
Certainly have. Make sure you like all our social media pages at SimSpeed TV and subscribe to us on YouTube at SimSpeed as well. From all of us up here in the booth, my name's Ryan Jones. Alongside me was Lachlan Mansell and Jay Kennedy behind the scenes. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now. He's got traction. He's got everything outside of both of them. Maloney. Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up to Oh my God. Oh, big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go.
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?